A warm welcome from the International Students and Programs Office. Thanks so much for joining us today for our pre-arrival webinar dedicated to student accounts and finances. My name is Grace Fuller. I serve as the Manager of International Student Experience and Engagement at the International Students and Programs Office. I'm joined by my colleagues today, Lisa Swid and Doug Schreiner, also from the International Students and Programs Office, or ISPO, and I'll hand it over to my colleagues from Student Financial Solutions to introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. My name is Andrew Weidler, and I oversee special projects at oversee our campus cards office.
And my name is Mark Adams. I'm the supervisor for student accounts in the Student Financial Solutions Office. Thank you all for being here this morning.
Great. So a little bit of housekeeping before we begin. So you are in listen only mode, which means you can hear us, but unfortunately we cannot hear you. So in order to communicate with us today, we encourage you to submit your questions through the Q&A feature on your Zoom menu bar. If for some reason we don't get to a question today, you can also contact us via icontact.ucsd.edu. And finally, we are recording, so you'll be able to view this webinar as well as other pre-arrival webinars we've done at iwebinars.ucsd.edu. This is just a friendly reminder of what that Q&A feature will look like on your Zoom menu bar. We encourage you to submit questions throughout today's webinar. So if you have a follow-up question on a certain slide, feel free to submit a question through the Q&A feature, but we will dedicate our time at the end of today's session to do an open Q&A, open question and answer, to answer all of those questions. So again, at any time, feel free to submit a question, but the end of today is when we'll answer those. A little agenda of what to expect. So we'll have some reminders from our office, the International Students and Programs Office. Then we'll hand it over to our colleagues from Student Financial Solutions to talk about third-party payers, international payment options, as well as how to avoid scams. And then again, like I mentioned, we'll have our open question and answer session. Okay, so a few reminders in terms of your first steps checklist from ISPO. So inewstudent.ucsd.edu is a really useful website for newly admitted international students. Here you can find important information about requesting your immigration documents and preparing for arrival. It is very likely that if you do have questions about how to request your immigration documents, such as your Form I-20 or DS 2019, you'll be able to find answers here on our website. We also have a new feature in the bottom, typically bottom right-hand corner of our screen called Ask Triton. And that's our chat bot where you can get immediate answers to your questions. So oftentimes, if you don't know where to begin, you can type in a few keywords into our Ask Triton chatbot, and that will go ahead and point you in the right direction. So I encourage you to give it a try. And then our last reminders from ISPO is that you can already start getting involved in the Triton community here at UC San Diego. If you are a graduate student, then I encourage you to sign up for our Grad Pals program. So our Grad Pals program matches incoming graduate students with current graduate students at UC San Diego, most commonly within their same department. This program aims to help settle new students by giving them opportunities to ask non-academic related questions, provide them with support during the first few weeks, and ease their transition into graduate life at UC San Diego. You can sign up using the tiny URL that you see on the screen. And in just a moment, I'll drop a link to all of these through the chat. If you're an undergraduate student, then I would encourage you to check out our Global Ambassador program. So our Global Ambassador program is a similar program. It's a peer mentoring program designed to assist incoming international and out-of-state undergraduate students. So typically this happens over the summer. You'll get matched with a current undergraduate student at UC San Diego. And when you fill out the form, you can actually say how you prefer to be matched. So whether it's matched with someone within your same college, maybe within your same major, or maybe from your same home region. And again, in just a moment, I'll put a link in the chat to sign up for the GAP program. And then finally, you can apply as an undergraduate student to be a part of the International Peer Coaching Program. So while GAP is designed for your first summer, your summer of transition, the International Peer Coaching Program is actually to assist you throughout your entire first year at UC San Diego. You'll get matched with an international peer coach, and you can see our current team right here. And you can learn more about this program through ipeercoaching.ucsd.edu. But to give you a little preview, so each of our international peer coaches are assigned to work with international first-year students in each one of the 7 colleges. They'll send weekly emails to their students that are geared to prepare and help students as they transition to UC San Diego. Our peer coaches are available for one-on-one peer coaching appointments, currently through Zoom, but hopefully in the future face-to-face. They also create an online community through Microsoft Teams and Discord channels to connect international students with one another. And lastly, we encourage you to connect with us on Instagram to see all the different events and programs happening for our students. If you're interested in joining this free program, you can scan the QR code on your screen or follow the link below. And then our iEvents calendar is kind of your one-stop shop to understand everything that's happening in terms of global engagement here at UC San Diego. Many of our students will bookmark this page in terms of to know kind of what's happening at UC San Diego, how can I get involved, and what's new. Currently, our international peer coaches are hosting regional meetups specifically for incoming students. So if you're an incoming student and you're curious about either meeting other incoming students from your region, maybe you want to meet current students, or maybe you want to meet students from another region, you are invited to attend our regional meetups. You can learn more about what regions are featured, dates, and times at ievents.ucsd.edu. And with that, I'll hand it over to my colleagues in Student Financial Solutions.
Sorry, was muted there for a second. Again, my name is Mark Adams. I am the supervisor for student accounts in the Student Financial Solutions office. And again, thank you all for being here again this morning. We really appreciate it, and we're hoping to you get benefit from this experience. My office is your primary resource for your student billing account. While we are certainly the office that is responsible for providing you can change, the next slide is fine. While you are certainly, we're certainly the office that's providing you a monthly billing statement where you'll submit your payment, or our primary goal is to ensure that you're enabled to understand what your financial responsibilities are, and to provide you guidance on requiring the knowledge you need to reach that understanding. To start, there's definitely a distinction about how you're being supported. There's 3 primary sources. Some of you may be self-supporting, making your payments yourself. Many of you will have direct support from a parent or other individual that will provide you a means of making your payments and pay those fees directly for you to the university. And then there will be some of you that have some kind of support, either full or partial, through a third party of some kind, be that a government agency or a private company. The distinction to be made clear here is the direct payment provider versus the third party supporter. We'll probably a bit more depth on third party momentarily, but this slide will first discuss the direct support. For anyone making payments directly to your account on your behalf, such as a parent, you'll need to make sure that you need to ensure that you have provided them authorized payer access. This will allow that person authorized to have access to your billing account through their own individual portal, receive their billing statement directly to their personal email, and will allow them to speak to our office about your billing status with any questions they should have that might arise. Someone without authorized payer access would not be able to speak to our office regarding your bill until you've actually given them the authorization to do that through this process on this slide. I want to stress here the importance of authorized payer. If you need them to be aware of your account status or to receive the billing statement directly, you need to authorize them. Do not provide your own accounting credentials to access the account, despite any kind of personal relationship you may have with this person, be it a parent, as an example. Keeping your own credentials private is an essential step to your online security. And authorizing your parent or your payer will give them their own set of credentials that's unique to them, and will allow them access to the billing account summary and to make payments on their own. Okay, you can advance the slide. The authorized payer will have access to their own portal login and a customized information page tailored to the need of that payer, like the one that's showing here. From here, they can request anything for you that you could yourself through your billing needs through us without the need of your information, your intervention at all. They'll be able to find past bill information, have the ability to enroll in the installment program. It's called TRIP, Triton Registration Installment Plan, as well as an access to a variety of information they may need. The installment plan breaks your registration fees into three equal payments throughout the quarter. So you'll have 3 monthly payments instead of all payments due at the beginning. And that's it does have a $40 fee to set that up. You can set it up for a quarter or the year. And it's beneficial for those who need some help in covering the payment up front. Next slide. For third-party accounts, such as government agencies, parent companies, international support groups that may be sponsoring you for education, included on this slide is a clickable link that will take you to information required in an infogram that will help you to complete your contract. The biggest distinction between direct payment payer and a third-party sponsor is the term contract that comes with a third party. UCSD will waive your fees that a third-party sponsor will cover for you on your account initially at the beginning of the quarter, up to the amount defined in the financial guarantee of the sponsorship that they provide. These fees will then be billed to your sponsor directly, who will have usually about the third week of the quarter after the final ad drop date is passed. They will then have a date at which to remit the payment by on your behalf. So long as your financial guarantee has been submitted and accepted by the university, the amount covered by the sponsorship will be paid on your account, and the contract will waive those fees off, and you'll never see it again. It'll be out of mind, out of sight, out of mind for you. International students fall under the guidance. Actually, let me rephrase that. Undergrad international students fall under the guidance of ISPO, the ISPO office, for their actual management of their third-party contract. So it'll be through their office that you want to supply all documentation. And if you have any questions about individual requirements, they're the ones who are going to handle those questions for you. Grad students will do the same thing through the grad division office, through their financial support unit that they have. Next slide. Lastly, I would like to touch briefly on those, for those of you who are paying it yourself, or at least part of your fees you're paying yourself, if not all of them. We understand that's a big challenge for a lot of you to have to pay for if you're paying all this on your own. Many grad students, international students have support of some kind when they come here, because the fees are there's a more challenging structure. But through we do offer we have a payment portal for all of our electronic payments, which you can do from anywhere in the world. Our primary recommendation is e-check, which is you need to have a US bank account to start with. Normally you won't have one initially if you're coming from international, but if you have the option to be able to set one up, the e-checks once you get here, at least. The e-check service is definitely the way you want to go. It's the cheapest form. It's the most instant gratification form. It's got only a 50-cent service charge. You do it right through your student account. The payments post immediately, so you'll see the payment without any delay, and it's really fairly simple. We do offer credit cards as well, which is the exact same format as far as e-check, but it does carry a 2.75% service charge, which on international student charges can be hefty. There are students who do, even international students who do choose to use credit cards, and that's fine. That's certainly an option. We just want to make sure you're aware that there is a 2.75% service charge. It's not charged by the university. We don't have any control on that piece. So it's unfortunate that credit cards charge that much, but unfortunately, that's the nature of the credit card business. Again, if you use credit cards, their payments will post immediately, just like an e-check will. The last piece we do offer is wire service transfers. Wire services that we currently use are Western Union and Flywire. We're always in negotiation with others, but right now those are the only two that the university does recognize. They take a little bit longer. They take 5 to 7 business days for the whole process to take place, for the payment to post to your account. Service fees can vary a little bit depending on what the exchange rate is from country to country. The big thing to remember about wire transfers is we don't accept direct wire transfers from a bank as a form of payment. There is a way to do that if you have no other options, but and you would email when you'd open a case with our portal, which is our support portal, which is support.ucsd.edu/students, and we'd request the direct wire information, and we'll send you the information on how to do that and the requirements that you need to have to do that. And the unfortunately the difficulties that acquires, that brings with it. It just takes a lot longer. It doesn't seem intuitive, but it does take a lot longer to do that. Andrew's putting all these links into the chat for you, so if you need to look those down. Next slide. Lastly are the other options of payment that we have available. There's always cash and personal checks. We'll take those, money orders, cashier's checks, traveler's checks. You can do all those in person through our central cashier office, which is in the students services support building. It's once you get familiar with the campus, it's just south of the primary student union and bookstore, which is like the hub of the campus. We're right there on just south of them in a relatively new building. They're on the bottom floor of that building. You can always do it by mail as well through for the same 4 sources. Again, we highly recommend the electronic versions. It's much easier. It's gratifications at fingertips, and it's much easier for you to submit that. Granted, with e-check, you do have to have a bank account set up, but hopefully you'll be able to do that within your first couple of months being here. So I believe there's another slide still. Correct. Okay. How to avoid scams and tuition scams. I mean, some of you may have been at a webinar earlier this month, earlier last month, I should say, that was discussed a lot of this, but I wanted to touch on it a little bit. Online security is becoming more and more prevalent to be at the when you're doing things online anymore. You always want to protect your login credentials. Never share them with anyone. Keep them to yourself. Use our official payment methods that come through the university. You'll see them on our website. We'll never reach out to you with any kind of email saying, here's how you make your payment. We'll always ask you to come to our website to take a look at it from there. We don't solicitate third parties at all, no solicitation. So if you're getting solicitation from them saying that somebody's from the university or helping you with the university, I would pretty much ignore those. Those are not something that you want to deal with. They're rampant out there these days. Anything coming from the university would be through probably a certified or a letter through the mail first with letterhead. Anything coming from the university as far as email will go, we'll have ways to check that the validity of that email in the email itself. Ways to come back to our secured websites to verify the information. Just you want to make sure you're protecting yourself. Okay. I think that's our last slide, but I do want to touch on one more thing before I go forward, and that's the importance of making your payments on time. Now, a lot of you who are supported through a third party, it may not apply to you as much, but even if you have a portion of your fees that you're due, or you don't have any fees at all, that you're fully supported by either the university or a third-party company or your parents are supporting you, it is important to make sure you are viewing your bill every month. We will send you one every single month. Always look at it. You'll get it. It's usually the first business day of the month that it will generate and come to you in your email. You want to go to your Triton Link account, look at your student statement, your student account summary, making sure that there's nothing on there that you need to address. You haven't gotten a late fee for something. You didn't go to the bookstore and make a bookstore payment that you forgot about that's been charged to your account and that's now due. The repercussions of having past due payments can be difficult to deal with it when you come to moving on to the next quarter. Our billing hold, its primary function is to stop you from enrolling in the next quarter until your current fees are paid. That's important to know. Even if it's a small fee, like you went to the bookstore and bought $100 worth of books or something and neglected to pay for that, that's going to stop you from enrolling until that's paid. Paying the bill online will automatically removes the hold, and you can move forward with natural progression, no problem. But we want to make sure that that billing statement is there for a reason. It's there every month, and it doesn't take much at all to take a look at your account every month. So with that said, thank you all for your time. I'll move you back over to the webinar and see if you have questions.
Thanks, Mark.
You bet.
All right, we have a couple of reminders before we transition to our open Q&A. So if you haven't already done so, we encourage you to start requesting your visa documents via iPortal. Additionally, if you are planning on living on on-campus housing, we encourage you to start applying for that right away. And you can do that by visiting HDH, which stands for Housing, Dining, and Hospitality.ucsd.edu. Our next pre-arrival webinar will be coming up next week on June 2nd, and that will focus on travel and immigration updates. And this summer, we encourage you to complete your iTriton online training on Canvas. You should have gotten an email about that via our iNewStudent newsletters. So if you have any questions about completing that, you can reach out to us at iNewStudent at ucsd.edu. That's our email for our newly admitted students. And finally, in September is when we will host our new international student orientation. Some of those pieces are still being determined, but we will post updates at iorientation.ucsd.edu. All right, so now we will move into our open question and answer. Yes, okay, so we already have some really good questions that have come through the Q&A so far, so continue to submit those. And our first question for our colleagues in Student Financial Solutions will be, the question reads, what about authorizing banks to disperse my loan money as a payment to UCSD? I'm wondering if you can speak to that a little bit.
Sure. No, we actually don't offer that as a form of payment. If you need, that's a direct wire payment. And the school just does not recognize that as an authorized form. Okay. Unfortunately, bank wires, we do not have a system set up where we can accept a bank wire directly. Goes through a repository. We have 10 universities that are in the UC system, and they all filter through the same bank system. You can still use it. We don't recommend it, but it takes because of delay in filtering, it can take 10, 20 days sometimes to get to your account, and you are responsible for that money until it actually posts to the account. So that's because we don't accept it. I don't recommend trying to use it. If it is your only option available, please, like I said, reach out to us on our support portal for the information on it, and we'll send you the details on how to do that, along with the repercussions that it comes with it. So
awesome, thank you. All right, our next question reads, I'm funded through a faculty member, so should I set up this third-party account?
You're as a grad student? I'm assuming that's a grad student question.
Yeah.
Grad student funding is done through a tuition assistance program, and that's not a third party. That will be handled directly through the university. It's a fee payment. You can always reach out to the grad division for more information on it, or your division or your department itself. But no, you will not have to do that. They will support you on their own through the university. You don't have to, there's no third party involved with that.
And I believe that covers our next question as well. I'm assuming graduate students who are granted tuition and fee remission are not concerned by all of this. Would that same answer apply?
That same applies, right? You don't have to worry about setting up any kind of documentation. That's all available. That's all done through your department directly. They'll handle all of that for you.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. Okay, so our next question is there any problem to have a combination of payments? Let's say directly from the student as well as a third party?
Not at all. The third party would be, you'll get a financial guarantee from your third party sponsor that will determine how much they're going to cover in any given quarter. That much will be waived off by the university, and we'll move that to the contract. That piece will be paid for you, and then we'll bill the third party independently. Whatever's remaining will be your responsibility to pay by the due dates that are involved, which is why it's important to watch those billing statements.
Great. Our next question reads, I am taking a loan from a bank to pay for my graduate program. The loan is taken in my parents' name as well as my own name. My parents are shown as a sponsor. So should I give authorization for payment to my parents or the bank as the third party authorization?
It'll always be your parents. Your parents will be the third party, because the direct payment is technically coming from the parent. Even though they're taking the loan out from a bank, they're getting the loan themselves, and they'll directly pay it for you. So they should have this. They should be the third. You want to authorize them as a payer, the parent.
Okay, our next question reads, most international debit cards are either Visa integrated. Is there any problem if payments are made directly from such debit cards?
Not at all, but it will carry the 2.75% service charge. And that's not charged by us. It's going to be charged by the bank.
Great. All right, our next question is, could you please explain the monthly components of our bills? I thought the entire tuition fees would be paid at the start of the quarter.
We charge by quarter. Okay, we do not charge annually. All of your fees for a particular quarter will be charged at the beginning of that quarter. The reason for that is you only enroll one quarter at a time. So there's no way to know what your program fees are going to be for future quarters, because you haven't enrolled in those yet. We can't bill for something that you have never enrolled in. So we'll only enroll one quarter at a time. You cannot submit a payment for the whole year, because we will not take it. Anything that's overpaid will be refunded back to you, or not accepted at all if it's too high of value. Normally overpayments can be about $1,000 at most to cover bookstore charges. If you try to pay more than that, that payment will be rejected, and it'll make you resubmit it at the correct value.
And I just want to add one thing. So while your registration fees are all due at the beginning of the quarter, you can still have monthly bills. So those are going to be things like bookstore charges, more miscellaneous things. So while you might be paying those quarterly fees up front, if you go to the bookstore, if you charge something to your account, you're still going to have to pay that on the monthly due date. So you'll want to continue to monitor your student account closely, see what charges that have been assessed there, and be aware of the billing due dates. As I mentioned in the chat earlier, we do post on Instagram regularly before upcoming billing due dates. So if you follow us, that will be a great reminder to see when there's an upcoming bill due.
Great. Okay, so our next question reads, I have an approved education loan in my home country as the primary source of financial support. Is the education loan considered a third-party financial support? How does the payment of fees work in that case?
It's not. It's considered a direct payment. Okay, you will submit that. They can submit the payment to us. It can't be by wire. It'll have to be in a check format, or they can pay you and you can pay us. But that direct payment is due by the due date. It's not a third party situation.
Wonderful.
And any of these questions, if you have more, our student portal, you can always reach out to us there, or Andrew, you can go ahead and put the number in the chat for our phone as well. They can give us a call. We'll be happy to discuss those in more detail for you.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, our next question reads, I'm planning to finance my program costs via Prodigy Finance. Prodigy Finance usually tends to pay the fees directly to the university. How will that work? Is there anything else I should know about that?
That'll work just like a direct payment, like we've been saying. They are still required to have that payment in by the due date. So they will probably require you to provide the billing statement to them, which will give them about 3 weeks to get that payment in on time. So getting that due date to them as soon as you have it, which will be the first business day of the month, making sure you're submitting that to your vendor for an international loan like Prodigy, and making sure it gets into the university by the due date.
All right, our next question is, I'm a graduate student with a full tuition scholarship and a third-party scholarship, which I hope to use to cover room and board. They want to disperse it directly to the school. How do I go about this?
With a scholarship, if you have a scholarship, even an international scholarship, you want to reach out to the financial aid office, let them know to make them aware that it's coming, and the scholarship can be sent directly to us for disbursement.
Awesome.
The addresses and all that thing for where to send things are in our website, sfs.ucsd.edu. You can find all the addresses on where to send things.
All right, our next question reads, regarding scams and fraud, is it safe to assume that any email ending in @ucsd.edu would be a legitimate source in general? Also, would we get alerts regarding payment and due dates reminders on our email beforehand, or is it required of us to check the website monthly?
Let me answer the last part of that first, and that's always check your website monthly. Just make that your habit. If you happen to have missed a reminder email, something like that could happen. Just get in the habit of checking it the first week of every month to make sure that there's nothing on there you're not expecting. Always do that. What was the first part of that, Grace? I'm sorry.
Yeah, for sure. It's about scams and fraud. So is it safe to assume that any email ending in @ucsd.edu would be a legitimate source in general? What other things to look out for?
Not necessarily. I mean, what I would recommend is if there's any links in there that they want you to follow or any numbers that they want you to call, you can always reach out to the university through the website to find out, through our own website, to ask if it's a legitimate email. Okay, that's the first thing you want to do. You can mask from email. There's programs out there that can do that for you. So that doesn't necessarily mean it's coming from the university. You would hope it would be. Ours will always say @ucsd.edu. They're always coming from that. Okay, that's always going to be our. But any link we have will have that HTTPS. It's always going to be a UCSD link. It's not going to be tiny link or any of these little misdirect emails that they use. It'll always be a valid, secured HTTPS site that's coming from.
Great.
Andrew, anything else you want to add to that? Okay.
All right, our next question is, as an international student, I understand that the first quarter tuition will have to be done via Western Union or Flywire. However, I hope to be able to set up a bank account in the US once I reach UC San Diego in person. Would you recommend using Western Union or Flywire for subsequent quarters, or doing it from my own US bank account?
It's a personal preference, clearly, but if you have the means to set up a US bank account, you're going to save yourself some service fees right off the top, because Western Union will always have, or Flywire will both have service fees involved with them of some kind, and they're not instant payments. There's always going to be a couple of days delay in there, versus the e-checks payment is instant gratification. You're going to make the payment, you'll go to your student account site, and you'll see the payment's been made. So our number one recommendation, we highly recommend everyone uses e-check through a personal bank account if they can.
Our next question reads, Is HDH rent payment also through Student Financial Solutions through my student account?
Yes, it is.
Awesome. Our next question is, does the 2.75% charge that you mentioned for paying through credit card depend on the bank? Would that number vary at all?
No, it's a vendor fixed. It's always going to be 2.75%. That's the US standard.
Wonderful. And our next question reads, when are we supposed to make the payment for the fall quarter?
Fall quarter will be September. I don't have the due date. I should have had that in front of me. It's going to be about right around the 20th of September. It's not the exact date unless I'm lucky, but it's going to be right about that date. End of the third week of September is where it's going to fall.
It's either going to be the 17th or the 24th, but you can check our website for the specific due date.
Awesome. Great. Our next question reads, is housing rent a monthly payment, or is that also billed quarterly for 3 months?
If you are in university housing, the campus housing, you have 3 options really. It's the one fee you can pay annually. You can pay it, and that'll secure your spot for the whole year. You can pay it all up front. You can pay it quarterly, or you can change your contract to pay it monthly. So you have 3 options, but that'll all be dictated by how you set up your contract with housing at the time you set that housing contract up. And it's changeable. If you want to change it later, you can.
All right, our next question reads, do I transfer funds from my home country to Chase Bank and then make an e-check payment, or what other setup might be required?
If you have a personal bank account like at Chase that you need to put money into, they can do direct wires from your home country to Chase, certainly. And those, because you're bank to bank, it's peer to peer. It's not through going to a company like you can send it to UCSD. Those are fairly quick, like within a day. So you can, and then you'll be able to make your e-check as soon as your funds are available in your account.
Our next question reads, I have a loan secured from my home country. The bank will transfer the amount directly to UC San Diego. How will I submit a check from a domestic bank to UC San Diego?
If they haven't provided you a checkbook with your own personal checks, you can get a cashier's check from your bank and submit that through the mail or bring it in personally. If you have a bank that's a US bank and has funds in it, you can use e-check and do it online.
Awesome. All right.
The due date for fall is September 17th. So Thank you, Andrew.
We actually have a question related to summer session or summer start. So if for summer start, when would the first payment be due?
It's going to be due in June. So it'll be right about June 26th, I believe, is the June 21st, I think, is the payment for summer one.
21st.
The summer's different because it's only 6 weeks long. If you're doing more than one summer session, summer session 1, summer session 2, you'll need to be checking those. Your next summer session 2 is going to be due in July.
July 26th.
Yeah, they're right back to back. So.
All right. So our next question reads, for our first fall quarter, can we enroll in courses before paying our tuition fee?
You have to. You can't, there's no fee to pay until you've enrolled in your courses.
Great.
So enrollment is happening, say for fall students, depending on when your orientation is, it'll happen over the summer, but that's when you do your enrollment. And then you won't actually get even billed for that until the 1st of September. And that's when you can make your payment.
All right, our next question reads, once we pay the fee for the quarter, if we get a TA ship, how will free remission be processed that we are entitled to as a TA? Also, how does the TA stipend get remitted?
Okay. The TA fee payments are remitted through the graduate and undergrad financial aid system. It will they will set up how much you're getting. It all does automatically into your account. You won't have to touch anything at all. It'll show up. TA fee are dependent upon each grad coordinator for each individual department to do the setup. Some are faster than others, so we usually see them between 2 weeks before the due date to right at the due date. It all depends on your grad coordinator. If you're getting close to the due date and you haven't seen it, you may want to reach out to your grad coordinator and find out when they're going to remit the payment. It's all individual depending on the grad coordinator. The other one was stipends. Stipends you will get once they set up through the department as well, and you will get paid out once a month, usually on the stipend payment date, which is right about 3 days before the end of the month, 3 to 4 days before the end of the month. So somewhere around the 28th of each month is where you're going to see a direct deposit if you have it to your bank. Otherwise, it'll be a check that goes through your department that will be handed to you.
Thank you. All right, our next question reads, will we be able to set up a US bank account before physically arriving to campus? So let's say if they're still abroad.
As long as you have an address. You have to have a permanent address in the US before you can set up a bank account. They will require that.
And if students are living on campus, will they be able to use their on-campus address?
Sure, not a problem. That is your current address for as long as you're in the university. As long as you're going to the school, they'll take that. We actually have 2 banks that are on campus. I don't recommend any banks. We're not biased that way, but we have a Chase on campus and we have a credit union that's on campus. So we've got 2 ones that are right on campus, and there's several others that are within walking distance, that are very close.
Our next question reads, how can I make the deposit for housing, which is due on May 24th?
The housing website has its own, which is hdh.ucsd.edu. We'll have the housing deposit link, and that is the only way you can make the deposit. You'll need to use, you can send in if you have to send in a payment directly to them, I believe they have an address, but they highly recommend against that if possible. They'll take Western Union and Flywire payments as well, but you'll have to do that electronically through that website.
Great. Our next question asks, for students attending a UC San Diego prep course starting August 2nd, when would the payment be due?
Depending on the course. Okay, if it's a prep course, if it's handled through summer session, it'll carry the summer session, the July summer session due date. But it depends on when that course is actually handled through the summer session office. The prep courses are all summer session courses, so you'll have a billing statement that'll tell you when. If it starts on August 2nd, you're going to be July 26th due date.
Awesome. All right, our next question reads, could I authorize my home country bank, which is lending me the loan, to directly disperse my tuition, or could they use my credentials?
I'm sorry, one more time.
For sure. Could I authorize my home country bank, which is lending me the loan, to directly disperse my tuition, or could they use my credentials?
Okay, no, you don't want to do either one of those 2 things. One, authorizing a payer is for an individual. It's not for an entity. You definitely don't want to give anyone at a company like a bank your credentials. Never do that. Okay. If your bank has to do a direct payment to us, the only option is going to be through the direct wire payment, which you can submit the request through the portal. And it comes with the caveats that are the delays and the potential problems that comes with that. We don't recommend that. If they won't submit the payment to you in order for you to submit the payment yourself, you can use the portal. I mean, you can use the wire payment.
All right, our next question reads, I'm a graduate student admitted with a first-year fellowship. Will UCSD handle the tuition payment internally?
Yes, that's all part of the fee payment system. that we talked about earlier. It works the same way.
Awesome. So this is somewhat related. So for PhD students with a fellowship, is it necessary to open a US bank account prior to arriving on campus?
Depends on if you're going to need to make any payments yourself. You know, most fellowships and fee payments will will pay your fees in full, and you won't have anything to pay. But you never know what little fees you may charge, incur yourself. Things at the bookstore. Just things can incur onto your account, so it's always important to make sure you're watching that. But a fee payment system like a fellowship or any one of those graduate programs that they may have where they're supporting you, you're getting support from the university, they'll cover your fees in full, and you won't have to do anything at all.
All right, this next question is actually probably a question for graduate admissions. So I'll go ahead and take this one. So I'm unable to get my degree and transcript copies from my undergraduate university due to the current lockdown in India. By when can I mail these documents to confirm my admission status? So you'll want to reach out to graduate division by emailing gradadmissions@ucsd.edu to inform them of your situation and to inform them that you're trying to get your transcript, but you're unable to due to the lockdown in India. So again, I'll go ahead and put that in the chat, but it's gradadmissions@ucsd.edu. And then this next question is also, I'll take it again. So the question is wondering about when will the entry English test be scheduled for incoming international students? So that actually depends if you are a graduate or undergraduate student. If you're a graduate student and you're wondering about the English proficiency requirements to be eligible as like a TA, we actually have a pre-arrival webinar dedicated to that topic. So I encourage you to, again, go to iwebinars.ucsd.edu, click on webinars for newly admitted students, and under pre-arrival webinars, you'll find a webinar that's specifically dedicated to teaching assistantships and English proficiency requirements. All right, our next question reads, being an Indian student, can I hire a person with a US bank account who could pay bills on my behalf and then I can pay him in Indian currency?
Unfortunately, I can't recommend that. I can't tell you not to do that, but we've hiring someone to do something for you has inherent risks. That's open to fraudulent behavior. I would be very certain of who you're hiring, like someone you might know, but it's not something we would recommend. Can't stop you. You can do that, but it's not something we would recommend.
I believe you may have answered this question, but if you wouldn't mind reiterating. So I'm taking an education loan. Does the bank or organization providing the loan, are they considered a third party?
No, they're considered a direct payer. They can either pay us directly, not wire, but through a actual check form and mail it to us, or they can provide the funds to you, which you can then pay to us. But it's a direct payment. It's not a third party.
Right. All right. And then again, what will be the usual deadlines for paying fees after we receive the bills? Is there a specific week in the quarter or a common time period?
It's the billing statement will be the first billing. The billing statement will generate the first month of every quarter. Okay, so September it'll generate in September for the coming fall. The due date is always within 3 weeks. Depending on where 3 weeks ends, if it's a week on a Friday, we try to do it on a Friday, Thursday or a Friday. But if it's going to be, it might be 3 weeks plus a few days or 3 weeks minus a few days, depending on where the weekend falls. But it's always roughly 3 weeks from the due date.
Very occasionally, it can be 2 weeks. So it's just, again, really important to monitor the due dates. I'll post our link again in the chat. But between that, Instagram, just monitoring your account and your online account, you should see the due dates for upcoming bills.
We do post the due dates for the entire year. They'll be posted on the website by the end of January, or by the end of June, I'm sorry. You'll be able to see all the due dates for the upcoming year. So you'll know what they are well in advance.
Yeah, the due dates are on that link I just dropped at the bottom of the page. Right now, we have them up through August, and then probably sometime this summer, like Mark said, we'll have the rest of the academic year posted on that page. So maybe bookmark it, check it periodically, make sure you know when that due date is.
And it will always be listed on the billing statement you get at the beginning of each month. It'll have that month's billing statement on it, due date on it as well.
Great. Our next question reads, can you please give us more details on paying through checks from our home country bank?
They have to be in US currency. Beyond that, there's no restriction. You would have to mail it to the central cashier's office. But as long as the currency is been written out in US dollars, they'll accept it, no problem.
All right. And our next question reads, what is the safest way for a university fee payment?
E-check. So a fee payment, I'm assuming they mean directly paying it themselves. It would be the e-check through our online portal. You have to log in with your own credentials through Triton Link into our Triton Pay portal, which will allow you to get to your account summary. From there, you'll see there'll be a payment, pay now. Click the pay now button, just determine how much you want to pay, what you want to pay the whole balance, and make your payment. And it'll give you the options that you have available to you, e-check or credit card or Flywire or Western Union. Select the button you want, submit it through. It's all through our secured system, goes through our third-party vendor who's works with strictly educational institutions, and we have never had any issues at all with payment through them.
Great. Our next question reads, can we use UC San Diego as our permanent address to set up the US bank account, even if we take our first quarter online from our home country, or should we wait until we are on campus?
First quarter online, I'm not sure they're even offering first quarter online for fall.
They may be, depending on if all of the embassies and consulates are closed in the home country and students are unable to physically arrive to UC San Diego, they might be offering some courses.
I'm gonna guess that a bank won't accept the university. You'd have to have your own box number. You have the PO box number at the university. Mm-hmm. So the university gives you a PO box number, then yes, you would be able to, but you would need to have that secured before. Couldn't do it with just the university address itself. Right. But it's going to be an individual bank decision. They'll make their own call on that. But my experience is they will need to have a physical location of some kind, be a PO box or a house address or apartment address.
Mm-hmm. All right. Our next question reads: could I authorize an Indian bank to disperse my loan amount as tuition?
I'm going to guess they're asking the same. This question's been asked a couple of times. It's going to be, they can, but they have to pay it they have to submit a check directly to us. They couldn't do it by wire. Mm-hmm. The best way to do it is for them to fund you the source so you can pay it, or pay us through a check itself. That's our recommendation.
Our next question reads, if I have an international bank account at Stan C, would there be a service charge or delay? In parentheses, only Chase was mentioned, hence confirming if it's the same for any US bank.
Yes, it'll be the same for any US bank. We mentioned Chase and the credit union that's on campus because they're on campus, but they're used to dealing with students. That's their primary. For those branches, it's their primary clientele. But we've got a Bank of America, we've got a Wells Fargo, and I believe there's a Citibank that's right around the corner. That's within walking distance. So there's plenty of banks around that you can use. And it doesn't have to be a local branch. As long as it's a U.S. branch, it's fine.
Mm-hmm. Great. And I see another question that I can go ahead and take regarding the undergrad program start date and when we'll be allowed to get accommodation at UC San Diego. So the fall quarter starts on September 20th, 2021, and instruction starts on September 23rd. Regarding getting housing accommodation at UC San Diego, we encourage you to apply for housing now if you would like to live on campus. So you can go to hdh.ucsd.edu, and if you have any specific questions, you can email them housinginfo@ucsd.edu. And I'll go ahead and put that here, but that will be the way you'll want to do it. Okay. I see another question that I can go ahead and take in terms of, has there been any news on conducting visa interviews online due to COVID? In India, we aren't getting any slots for visa interviews. So I encourage you to attend our webinar next week on June 2nd, dedicated to travel and immigration updates. We know that COVID still is meaning global challenges for our students and specifically for their ability to arrive physically in the US for fall quarter. So we'll be addressing some of those challenges at our webinar next week. So I encourage you to join us then. And our next question I can also go ahead and take. And so the question reads, when and how do we enroll for classes for fall 2021? I am a graduate student. So most likely you will want to reach out to your graduate department to learn more specifically about how to enroll in classes and when to enroll in classes. But if you have any general questions, you can also reach out to gradadmissions@ucsd.edu, which was dropped in the chat before.
There's a tax one. How much tax deductions happen with the TA stipend? I couldn't tell you what the percentage is. You will get a 1098-T form if you have TA assistance through the grad department. Unfortunately, I don't know enough about the taxes to give that answer directly, but you would be able to. You will get taxed on TA assistance, and it will show up on your 1098-T. I would ask a tax professional about what the percentage is going to be.
All right, that seems to be a lot of our questions right now. Mark and Andrew, feel free to chime in if there's a question through the Q&A that you would like to speak to. I do see some questions regarding starting online initially and then getting a visa and arriving to UC San Diego later. And again, I encourage you to come to next week's webinar to learn more about that process and how late you might be able to arrive for fall.
I do have a statement that's not been asked or a question, but it's it's specifically regarding India. With the last year, COVID's hit pretty hard in all over the world, but India has had some challenges with us. If you've got an Indian bank, we've had a lot of students who've had trouble remitting payments because their Indian banks are closing or having difficulty getting contact with them. Just be aware that that's the case. If you're going to have that kind of a situation, just reach out to us for discussion, and we'll be happy to talk to you about what's happening and what options we can do for you. We'll be happy to work with you because we're aware that the global pandemic is still an issue and still happening and may still be of effect. So we'll be, make sure the key is to not wait till the actual due date to reach out to us. Reach out to us in advance so that we have time to work out and try to make some arrangements. Okay.
And I am seeing some questions about taxes. And so I'll go ahead and drop this in the chat as well. But for those, you'll want to either go to internationaltaxhelp.ucsd.edu. That's a website that will help you with a lot of these questions in terms of filing taxes as an international student. And you can also email internationaltaxhelp@ucsd.edu with specific questions. So that will be a great resource for you as you're looking specifically at questions regarding taxes as an international student. All right. Yes, and in terms of questions regarding getting vaccinated as you come to UC San Diego, I encourage you to go to returntolearn.ucsd.edu. They have a section dedicated to vaccinations. So that will educate you both on different vaccinations that are approved and accepted by the university, as well as wanting to get vaccinated at the university, the process for that. So again, going to returntolearn.ucsd.edu and looking at the vaccination section will be the best bet for that. All right, that is actually the end of our time together today. So thank you so much for joining us. I hope that we did get many of your questions answered. So I hope that we got your specific question answered. And as always, if you need to reach out to us, here is Student Financial Solutions contact information. Feel free to reach out to them. I'll allow a moment for maybe you to take a screenshot or what have you. Additionally, they provided a lot of really helpful links and contact information in the chat. And then if you need to reach out to our office, you can always do so via either our website, emailing us, and then also following us on social media. We actually just created an Instagram filter to celebrate our new students as they accept their admission to UC San Diego. So congratulations. We hope maybe you test that out. And if you tag us, we'll reshare it because we're so excited about our new Triton community. And with that, thank you. Have a great rest of the day. And we hope to see you at our next pre-arrival webinar. Thank you.